Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Ag Talk with Doc. I'm Dr. Roger Marshall, and you all know this young man, Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue. Secretary, thank you for being here today.
Has been.
You'll always be a secretary to me. Yeah, well, welcome. Appreciate everybody being here at American Farm Bureau. I hope you're having a great time. It's been great to see everybody in person. And Sonny, you're kind of the star of the show here today. You got a wonderful Lifetime Achievement Award from American Farm Bureau. Maybe just tell us what that award means to you. 7 decades of service in agriculture. And I'm sure the people would love to know just what you're up to.
Well, Dr. Marshall, you probably know this is the premier agricultural advocacy organization in the United States. And when we were at USDA, Farm Bureau across the country, all their state organizations, they were like our field team. We wanted to go out and meet face to face with real farmers, with real challenges, and understand and hear from them. And Farm Bureau was always there to gather up their members and non-members and allow us to have a great, candid conversation about their needs. So we relied on Farm Bureau. They always came through, and obviously Zippy Duval, their president, and I were friends when he was president here in Georgia. So we just got along famously, but their staff was amazing, and it allowed us to learn real-time information, what was going on the farm, not through necessarily through a lobbyist somewhere, but we talked to the people that were enduring those kind of issues and policies and challenges right there on the farm. So we enjoyed it, and we're happy to be here today. It's a great organization, and I'm happy to be here with you as well. You always, when I left D.C., you were on the Congress side, on the House of Representatives, and now you've made a change. But what I always appreciate about you at those committee hearings, you came prepared with real questions, inquiring about real issues for agriculture and how to make it better. And I always appreciated that.
Well, thanks, Sonny. And I want to shout out to Rich Feltz, my Farm Bureau president back home, Kansas Farm Bureau. Rich Feltz, I say he's mine because I'm a member of Farm Bureau back home, so I get to complain to Rich when I got concerns as well. So Rich, good to see you here as well, and so many other Kansans. But you're right. Whatever this conversation goes, I think when we talk about agriculture, it's good to talk to the voice of agriculture.
And that's what this is probably the most democratic, with a little d, organization of American agriculture. It built up from the county level all the way up with policies and provisions. Each of these individuals out here, individual members, whether in leadership or not, can put forth an idea that has the opportunity to bubble all the way up to the American Federation level to bring to you all in policy-making positions or at the secretary level to help implement. And that's really what the power of it. I think it's a truly an organization that values its members, values their input. It's the best form of democracy that I see in agricultural advocacy.
As I sit here, I think about great giants in agriculture, and I think of Sonny Perdue.
Oh my!
And I think of Pat Roberts, one of my mentors as well, who served the state of Kansas, but really the greater world of agriculture for 40 years. The only person that I know of that spent 40 years on an ag committee in the House and Senate and helped write 8 farm bills. You got to write a few of those you helped us write a farm bill. And you know, one of the questions I'm getting here today, people are asking me, what are you happy about the past farm bill? That we wrote the law, but you helped participate, but then you had to implement it. As you think about the farm bill that you and I and Senator Roberts helped write and many others, what are you proud about from that?
Well, I'm proud of, first of all, we got it done, and we got it done under his watch and before he left in that regard. And I didn't realize, I think that was a surprise to me, Roger, that you really kind of work on the farm bill all 4 years. You get the language down, you're trying to get technical information to Congress beforehand, and all the questions about what should we do over conservation, over crops and other things. And it's a very complex law. If you look at it, it's multiple pages, but it's very complex and deals with multiple issues that most people wouldn't think about that's in a farm bill. But it was very good to work with Senator Roberts and his staff and the Ag Committee staff there to do that, and we were grateful to do that. Implementation also, after the bill passed, that's when our real work began, right, because you all can't specify to the ultimate degree of everything. That's where the rules and regulations come in. That's where the partnership between Congress and USDA came about, of developing the rules, because we wanted to follow really the intent of Congress. The challenge in that regard is, on your side, there may be one intent, on the other side, there was another intent. We had to meld those together to make sure that the consensus intent of Congress in that law was what was implemented by rule and regulation. So I feel pretty good. We've gotten good compliments about the implementation of the rules that follow the Farm Bill. I hope you have as well. I think for the most part, it's been very successful. We know that agricultural prices have been helped the last couple of years. There are also some challenges. I think we probably ought to talk about inputs, but right, I think for the most part, I think the farming community, agricultural community is very happy, all the way from the conservation group to the crop producers to the livestock are very pleased with the outcome. Is it perfect? No, never will be. That's why you continue to do it every 5 years.
Yeah, even today, as I asked some of the folks I'm meeting, what are their concerns about the past Farm Bill, and really aren't getting, oh my goshes. Yeah. This phase, 3 years ago when we were working on a Farm Bill, I was getting concerns. People were telling me, look, ARC and PLC are good programs. We want to be able to change them year by year. Right. We got that accomplished. Folks continue to say prioritizing crop insurance in general. Probably the biggest concern I have is that nobody's really talking about a Farm Bill back in Washington, D.C. Right. They're very focused on environmental issues, as you and I have tried to lean into the years as well. As USDA Secretary, talk a little bit about the conservation programs that you're so proud of.
Well, again, you mentioned something else that I'm proud of, and your predecessor, Senator Roberts, was very, very proud of the crop insurance program. And I think, again, the safety net of the crop insurance program, where farmers, individual farmers and producers participate in that risk management tool, has been one of the bright spots that has really brought agriculture through, along with the help that President Trump gave during the situation with China and the tariffs and low commodity prices was very helpful. We get a lot of compliments about that. But regarding the conservation, I think it was a great balance. We didn't look at one side or the other. We think both good conservation is good agriculture is good conservation. So we never treated it as a one or the other. We thought the blending of that, obviously Chairman Peterson on the other side, I think, had some good ideas about some of the conservation efforts as well, and we listened to him as well. So I think we came out with a very balanced type of bill between conservation. Obviously, agriculture is very concerned now. We've made a lot of progress under President Trump in the waters of the U.S. We're very concerned about hearing some of the undoing of those rules and regulations of the waters. That would be catastrophic, I think, for agriculture.
Yeah, it is about that simple. I even remember coming to Kansas, your team coming and discussing kind of maybe freezing the waters of the U.S. expansion, and made some great progress there as well. You know, maybe folks would enjoy a little bit of the interaction behind the scenes with President Trump's team, and I'm going to share a quick story as well. The first time I met President Trump, I was called to the White House to discuss health care. And sat down with the president, and the first thing he said is, Roger, how are your farmers doing? This is going to go back to 2017, and I said, well, Mr. President, our farmers aren't doing very well.
It's tough times then.
And this was a 10-minute meeting that we talked for 20 minutes, and I say we, President Trump talked about agriculture for 20 minutes, but in many ways it was the birth of the market facilitation program, and you being in his ear. But I just recall being in the White House and watching the president talk about agriculture, really jumping into it. And after 20 minutes, I was one of those minutes where I was overwhelmed. This little fifth-generation farm kid from Kansas sitting in the Oval Office with the President of the United States. And the president was looking at me, and I was looking at a little red button beside where he was sitting. And I'm not sure if you've had this happen to you or not, but I was looking at the red button right there beside the president. And he said, "Roger, I bet you're wondering what that red button's for." And I shook my head, yes, I sure did. And it was one of those moments, it was 15 seconds, but it seemed like 10 minutes. I looked out the window and I thought maybe the Air Force One helicopter was going to be landing, and maybe the CIA agents would jump out of there behind the sofa and grab us and throw us into the secret cart that was take us to a tunnel. And I looked up and there was a Marine with a Diet Coke for the president. So I thought of that story sitting here in Atlanta and Coke and all that means to Atlanta, but he sure got me on that one.
That was a very important red button, and he used it frequently as well.
He did.
But what you described was exactly my experience. People obviously asked me what it was like. I said, this man that grew up in Queens, New York, in the heart of the city, real estate New York battles, had a uncanny affection and affinity for people of the land. Just what you said, Roger. I bet we could be talking about, I wasn't talking too much about healthcare, but Vietnam currency and trade policies and energy and other types of things. I bet I didn't leave the Oval Office twice when I would get up to say, he'd say, "Sonny, how are my farmers doing?" And in 17 and 18, I had to tell him then, I said, "Mr. President, it's pretty tough out there on the farm. They need help." He said, "Well, you figure out what needs to be done. Let's help them." And so that was a real honor to me to serve someone that not only, I believe, loved this country with all of his heart, he loved working people. He would tell me, he said, "I would learn more from my carpenters and our electricians and plumbers than I did from our architects and engineers." So what I finally figured out, Roger, I believe he understood the fundamentals of the law of the land and believed that American farmers and ranchers embodied that American spirit of building up things, seeing it all drought or rained or flooded away, and doing it again next year, continuing with work ethic and faith and values and just that persistence. I think he truly loved that.
That's great.
Yeah.
When I go out and talk to folks, to farmers back home today, they ask me, is the president really serious about a 30 by 30 program? They ask me, are we going to lose stepped up bases? Are they going to lower the amount of money we can give to our grandchildren, the land that my great-great-great-grandparents purchased? They're worried about expansion of waters of the U.S. They're worried about expansion of the Endangered Species Act, herbicide issues, pesticides, but the number one issue that I hear from is input costs and the price of fertilizer. What would you tell the farmers, and what are the solutions here?
Well, that's a good question. It's a very complex question about what are the solutions. You're really putting me on the spot there, but I think if people see these crop prices now, they say, "Oh, farmers are just killing it. They're making bank out here," but you don't see the other side of that equation with the expenses of these guys out here can tell you, these guys and gals can tell you what fertilizer prices have somewhat doubled and tripled and other input costs, as well as the availability. We all know about the supply chain, but the supply chain has affected ag protection chemicals as well. I think it's, again, Roger, a dependence. One of the solutions may be we've depended upon foreign sources too much. We need to make it policy-wise, yes, where we can make it profitable here to make those kind of items from a regulatory perspective and from a profitability standpoint, to make those things here and not be dependent. One of the saddest things I think we've seen in this whole inflation thing, everybody here goes to the gas pump, and you don't have to guess what's happened there. For the first time, we were energy independent. You think about all the geopolitical implications that made and that had with the United States being energy independent, but just almost within a year, the policies over the pipelines and other type of regulatory, stopping it on federal lands, has made us again dependent upon foreign sources for our fuel, and that's bad. All of us, farmers are great conservationists. They want green energy as well, love ethanol and others, but we're not going to just immediately swap over to total green energy. It's not going to be all electric vehicles for a long period of time, and we've got to have some kind of transition to do that.
It does seem like this nation takes their food for granted.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm trying to communicate is that food is a national security issue.
Sure.
And one of the things we've tried to do is elevate the Secretary of Agriculture to someone that would be involved with CFIUS and some of those decisions? And again, I want to put you on the spot, but is that something that would be helpful to the Secretary of Agriculture?
Absolutely. We were called in the way the foreign organization, or CFIUS, the group that decides whether foreign entities can purchase U.S. assets and companies there. We were called in on a couple of those, but we're not standing members. I absolutely agree with you that our protection of our agricultural assets and the opportunity to grow independently our food and fiber here and fuel the United States is critical for national security. I absolutely believe the Secretary of Agriculture ought to be a permanent member of the CFIUS committee that makes a decision whether we are suddenly. Foreign entities come in, they're watching these young startups all the time and buying those startup companies and taking the technology offshore and selling it back to us. And if we allow that to continue, the United States will not be that beacon. Just imagine what a blessing it is in the United States because of these people and their colleagues all across the country that we are food independent. We've known where we were not energy dependent, or we've become energy dependent, but think about if we became food dependent upon other nations and what a powerful geopolitical tool that would be against our folks. The great thing about this country is these men and women, and like them all across the country, have developed a system where we don't have to depend on anyone else for our food and to feed our families.
There you go. I want to talk about innovation for a second.
Yes.
And it's one of our favorite topics we've shared through the years. I want to tell you a quick story what innovation isn't. I was walking from the Senate floor, or from my office in the Senate over in Russell Building over to the Capitol with a Democrat member on the Senate Ag Committee. And we really were just developing a relationship, and he said, had the farmers in Kansas ever thought about doing no-till farming? I hear it's a real innovative practice. Have you ever thought about doing cover crops? And I didn't have the heart to tell him, look, we've been doing no-till farming on my farm for over 20 years, and cover crops, I just assume we've been doing those for years. But there's other innovation out there. I see our packing plants, we're taking the fat from the processing, we're turning it into a renewable diesel. We're seeing the methane gas from our hog farming operations turn into a renewable gas as well. You're on the board of Calera, and you guys are doing some innovative things. Maybe just talk a little bit about what you see the future of agriculture is and what Calera is doing for innovation.
We had started with an ag innovation agenda, really, which was to encourage these seed companies out here to think about what could be and imagine technology in agriculture. We've already seen a tremendous uptick in that, where many people think agriculture's taker. Agriculture's been givers of really feeding our population in much of the world for many years. So it's all because of the technology of innovation. We think about just hybrid seeds, but what has taken place with soil science and the new science and soil technology is another type, planters, all those kind of things is going to propel. You look at our yield curve, it's really just a hockey stick of exponential increases, and what that means is people have been able to keep food prices competitive and lower, if you look back many years ago on an inflation scale, lower than they've been for years because of the productivity with less acres and less people doing that. So it's critical that we would do that. Calera is a part of a new era of controlled environment agriculture. It's taking, logistics are certainly a big part of our process and cost in food. We know that much of our lettuce and other things come from Arizona, California. This idea is to take industrial sites and do controlled inside agriculture in growing lettuce and small microgreens and other types of things around metro areas where the consumers are, which we believe will be a safe help. It's very safe. No chemicals or pesticides needed there because the controlled environment, and we see a lot of it. We went to the Netherlands in Europe, which is almost the grandfather of that kind of technology. I think we're going to see more of it. There are many companies out there, but Calera is an innovative company that's doing whole head lettuce that is preserved with having that root ball there where it can stay in the refrigerator much longer.
Sounds good. Looking for Michonne. How much time do we got left here? We need to wrap it up here. We got time for maybe 2 more quick questions for you. You and I enjoy a passion of turkey hunting. What is your favorite? Why do you enjoy turkey hunting?
Well, it's interesting. I jokingly tell my wife it's safer than trying to pick up someone in a bar. But to be able to trick a wild animal as wily and as smart as a wild turkey is a pretty amazing type of thing. It's interactive. I came to turkey hunting later because in Georgia we didn't have turkeys like you all had in Kansas up until about 20, 25 years ago. So I didn't grow up doing that, but I've become very addictive, and it's a sport that I love in your state. And we've been out to Kansas for several years now and hope to be back again this spring. But it's a challenge, and it's like life. You're not always successful, but every incident, every encounter is different, and you learn something from every experience that way. So it is a great sport, and I'm very appreciative of the fact that I can come to Kansas, and Kansas is very friendly to out-of-state hunters, thankfully. Some states are kind of putting up a no welcome sign there, but Kansas is not one of those.
So last question. You played football at the University of Georgia, is what I've been told. Who do you got tomorrow night?
Well, you're very kind in saying that. Play was not the operative word. I was on the team, and it was Dooley's second year. He'd recruited about 9 different quarterbacks, and I went up as a quarterback as a walk-on. I wanted to go to veterinary school. Like you went to medical school, I wanted to go to veterinary school in University of Georgia. So I skipped some out-of-state offers and walked on there. That's another way you learn a lot about when you come a different class, different jersey. That way you learn a lot about yourself in that way. But we had a great time. It was a great period of life. And Herschel followed me a little behind, but Jake Scott, Bill Stanfield, those all pro players were on that team, and we really bonded together. So guess what? I'm going with Go Dogs.
There you go. Go Dogs. Yes, sir. Secretary Perdue, thank you for being here with us. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.